There's a way that these stories go. The players kick in the door and make eye contact with the big, bad, scheming, evil advisor, who shrieks, "Guards, guards!" And the guards come rushing in a wave of 10 or 12 of them, and the heroes cut them down viciously and brutally and in pursuit of justice. And as quickly as it started, it is all over, and they're questioning the evil advisor, and honor and justice and goodness have prevailed. And that is the way that guards and knights are treated, as cannon fodder, as a mere hurdle from one point to another, something to make the stretch of floor between the door and the throne more interesting. But what if we actually fleshed it out? What if we gave them tactics? What if we treated them like people? What if we thought of the practical reasons for them being there and for how they operate? Hello, adventurers, and welcome back to the Red Quills. This is day 22 of the Mapvember challenge, and today I am creating Stormswatch, the watchtower on the edge of the ocean. Now I've been doing this for 22 days now. This is over 3 weeks. Oh my God, I can't believe it. And I really appreciate everyone watching, everyone commenting, everyone liking, all my new subscribers. It's just wonderful to be able to do this, and I hope that you've enjoyed it. But I will beg patience. It has been noted by some that my videos have become a little bit rambly, so I'm going to try to focus up a little bit more as we get to the final stretch of this particular challenge and make it as enjoyable for you as it is for me. So this tutorial is going to be much more structured than some of the previous ones that I've done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to design the tower. I'm going to go through it room by room and talk about the specific defenses, and I'm not going to ramble. So what we're going to do is we're going to get out an A4 piece of paper and our Fineliner pens. The materials are in the description below, and I'm going to very briefly sketch it out and talk about the different defenses. So what we're talking about here is an isolated watchtower. It's not attached to a city, it is on the border. So it needs to be self-sufficient and it needs to be defensible by the garrison. So what we're going to do is we're going to design it with defense in mind and self-sufficiency in mind, as well as practicalities. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the Clifftop Approach, and we're going to give it a drawbridge. A drawbridge is a classic for a reason. It makes things very, very defensible. It is a vulnerable approach for anyone attempting to assail the tower, because you've either got the choice of climbing up the cliffs from the sea below, which will require a ship anyway, and an extremely dangerous climb, or you will need to come within full view of the tower in order to make it across the drawbridge. Both of those things put attackers at a distinct vulnerability, and when you're creating watchtowers for your own campaigns, always remember that if they have spent, thousands, tens of thousands of gold in building a tower like this in the wilderness, then they will have thought out precisely where its location is going to be and made it as defensible as possible. These kinds of natural defenses, like cliffs, like moats, like drawbridges, that's not a natural defense, but you get what I mean, is the kind of thing that is going to make it level up from being just a simple ruin in the wilderness to an actual fortress. Once you head over the drawbridge, you head into the gatehouse, and the gatehouse itself is where the portcullis is. Always have the combination of the two. You want a gate and a drawbridge in case someone cuts the chains on the drawbridge itself. 2 levels of portcullis, and so you can keep people in the center, and you've got a little identification window. So the guards on the inside of the gatehouse can see who is coming in and can make a verified recognition of precisely who's coming through. They fail that recognition, then you've got funnels for hot oil, then you've got arrow slits for attacking them, then you've got any number of ways to keep them pinned down like fish in a barrel while you wait for reinforcements. It is one entry into the fortress only. There are no back doors. That is just Fortress 101. You can have a servant's entrance. You could put a jetty at the bottom of the island, but I would recommend just having one entrance into every fortress. It makes things a little bit more inconvenient on a day-to-day basis, but in terms of being defensible, you can't beat it. Once you get past the gatehouse, you get into the large courtyard itself. And what we're going to do is we're going to design it to be a place that people do not want to be. So it is a large, open, wind-swept area. Puddles will form on the floor anyway. Again, that is impractical on a day-to-day basis, but against an invading force who don't know the terrain, that is going to be an advantage to the soldiers who are living there. So it will have drainage, but we also want to encourage large puddles so that it's a slipping hazard as well. There is going to be a stair up onto the wall there as well, but the stair leads onto the opposite side of the walls through the gatehouse and onto a platform on the far side where we're going to keep a ballista. Now, a ballista is a great defense for the tower against ships that will come at it, against siege engines on the cliffs, but it will turn into a red mist any unfortunate invader who underestimates their willingness to use it, especially if they've modified it so that they can use it to throw in a net over anyone who's particularly large, or a shower of metal shards or glass against them as well. Think about how you can modify it against people rather than just siege engines, but that is their main mode of defense, in addition to making a terrain that is going to be difficult to navigate. Not only the slippery surface of the courtyard itself, but also ask yourself, what is the most inconvenient way of getting from point A to point B from someone who's entering through the main gate? That will delay them and allow the defenders more time to set up their defenses and to make pot shots at them. Hostile architecture is what we're going for here. Once they've gone past the ballista, we're going to get into the main area. We've got several layers here, and we've got a top-down view, so it's going to be difficult to show it on the map itself. So I wanted us to imagine that we've got the main keep, which has a large tower, a 2-story area, and a 1-story area, a 1-story wing off it. Now, in the main building on the bottom floor, that is the main keep area. That is where the barracks is. That's where the soldiers stay and amuse themselves and sleep and store their personal possessions. That's where the majority of the force is going to be. They will have a guard on the outpost at all times, but this is where reinforcements will come from. Next to it in the wing is where the armory and the store and the mess is. That's where they eat. That's where they store their equipment. That's where they store their food and their clothing. That's where they cook things as well. On a wing off the barracks is where the armory is. That's where they keep their equipment, is where they keep their ammunition. It's possibly also where any cells are for prisoners if they've captured them. It's where they store valuables in a vault as well. Above the barracks is the mess and the store for all of their general goods. We're talking rope, hay, wood, and food. And so between those 3 areas, we're storing people, we're storing weaponry, and we're storing general goods. Storage is a huge part of any self-sufficient location, and we've got to think our way through that. You'll notice that I haven't done latrines. They use pots and they throw them over the side. Nice and easy. Let's not overcomplicate that thing. If you want to add gardens as well, that kind of thing can be used for fertilizer. Now, it's important to note that the architecture of these buildings will be that they don't have windows, they have shutters, and they have defensible doors that lock from the inside, which also have holes for bows and crossbows within them, so that each of these areas can be shut up, can be defended. You can retreat from one place to another to another. Think about how to make it inconvenient for an invading force and convenient for someone who wants to take pot shots at that very bad place for invaders to be in the courtyard. Because once you move past that, we get to the central tower. We're going to divide that in 2 as well. The first is going to be the spiral staircase. Guys, I cannot tell you how inconvenient a spiral staircase is to an invading force, particularly if you take into account the fact that they're going to be using swords and they will generally be right-handed. If their right hand is going to be to the wall of the spiral stair as they're heading up, then they're not going to be able to swing their swords nearly as wide, whilst the people on the stairway itself coming down will have much more movement and defense from them. It's also great if you don't have a balustrade. Yes, I know it's not very OSHA, but it does mean that people can roll a barrel down the stairs and throw people off. These kinds of defenses are what you want to be thinking about when you're designing it, and they did in real castles. And at the top of the spiral staircase, at the top of the tower, when you've moved past the storage areas and any offices that you will require, we haven't gone into that, but that's also something you can have here. You get to the rooftop beacon, the top of the tower. And that's perhaps where not only they store some of their valuables, or they have a command post if necessary. They could have another ballista up there. What I've put there is a rooftop beacon, and the reason is very, very simple, because what they're going to do is delay you for as long as possible and set themselves up in a defensible position. If invaders come in and it looks like the castle's not going to be able to defend itself, everyone will retreat to a location that the invaders will not be able to get to. For instance, cells or a vault or the top of a tower, and they will barricade themselves in there and light the beacon, and the beacon will call reinforcements which will arrive within the day. A troop of knights or a couple of ships will come from the nearest settlement, and they will bring enough of a force to clear out the castle itself, and then all the defenders need to do is wait. So that was my very focused way of telling you precisely how I would design an outpost like this. This I would man with standard soldiers and guards and veterans in order to make it a challenge for, mid-level parties as well. But remember that their tactics and their equipment will make things even more difficult than their stat blocks will. Using things like grease on the stairs in order for the players to make dex saves if they dash, using the ballista to its greatest effect, using any explosives or chemicals to make the air difficult to breathe or lower visibility for invaders. That's something you can do. If you stick an explosive within a barrel of flour, visibility is going to be extremely low, let me tell you that. So thinking about things creatively like that, just using some basic chemical knowledge, some understandings of tactics, and thinking through really how you would defend something like this. If you think it through once and you design a general tower outline, all you need to do is just change that outline up a little bit. You don't need to think it through from the basics every single time. So I would recommend creating something like this as the basis for any fortress or watchtower outpost that you explore from then on in, because these tactics are so good, they will of course be used over and over and over again, because ideally any invader will not have the chance to learn from them because they will be fatal. So that has brought us to the end of this tutorial as to creating the Stormswatch watchtower. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you've created your own watchtower in the past, what kind of defenses did you set up? What kind of traps did you set up? Did you use puzzles? What kind of inhabitants did you have there as well? Because I didn't really talk about stat blocks very much here at all. But tomorrow, I do want to give us a little bit of a challenge. If you've got a bit more time, then you can expand on it as I am doing. If you do not, you can make it smaller. But on day 23 of this map making challenge, I am going to challenge myself by creating a mega dungeon. And I'm going to make it focused on the powers and lore of a mummy. I am very, very excited to explore Sorrowful Mortal and give it a little bit of lore there. So if you want to create a mega dungeon as well, please do. I'm actually really excited to do this because I love mummies and I think they're just absolutely fantastic. I prefer them to liches, if I'm being honest, in terms of undead bad guys. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make up a whole history for this mega dungeon, and it's going to be a city underground inhabited both by the living and by the dead. So how can we make that happen? How can we set the mummy up for that to make sense? Let us see tomorrow. That is your prompt, and I cannot wait to see what you do. But until then, happy mapping, and I will see you tomorrow. And that is how I create a fortress, and that was very focused, and I'm kind of proud of myself. Are you proud of me? Stick it in the comments below. Don't do that. That's weird. So that was my